Hello, people of the world. I'm Lillian Schmidt, and I'm with my guest,
Kate Moore. Hello.
and this is Misconceptions in Hollywood, a podcast where we talk about the wrongs and the rights that Hollywood does with true crime. And specifically, I brought Kate here with me to talk about two cases and their movies and shows. Number one being the Jeffrey Dahmer case, which I know, Kate, you are familiar with.
Very, yes.
But for those who aren't familiar with, Jeffrey Dahmer was a man from the 70s through the 90s. He ate, assaulted, and raped a lot of his victims. And there was just a huge case about this, and it was crazy. And I want to talk about, the new Jeffrey Dahmer show. I think it was called, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story with Evan Peters cast. Did you watch that?
I did, yeah.
What did you think of it?
So, the show itself, it just felt like a weird, just a Hollywood plot kind of thing. It didn't feel like it was an actual thing that happened because of how they presented all of it. So it was just kind of it also just felt really weird on the way that they were kind of glorifying his father just a little bit. They made the relationship better than it actually was.
Mm-hmm. And another thing about his father, Lionel Dahmer, they were oh yeah, he taught Jeffrey how to dissect the animals. He did not. He released a book being I did not do that. He kind of just did that on his own. I did not have any teaching. Obviously, never met Lionel Dahmer. Can't really say if it's true or not, but that's what he said in his book. Not only that, but they glorified so much shit in that show. I would go on TikTok and find edits of Evan Peters dressed as Jeffrey Dahmer, and everyone's oh my god, he's so hot. I'm he's a serial killer.
You don't understand,
exactly.
Dude. You don't understand. The amount of people that were oh my god, his face or his eyes, and I'm sitting there and I'm dude, do you understand what you're saying right now?
That's what I thought. And they Ryan Murphy, who wrote and directed the show, he was oh yeah, this is a tribute to the victims. There was barely anything at all, and I just thought that was wrong. They gave some insight as to what the victims were but they did not ask permission of the victims' families, which I thought was just very
that sounds the exact opposite of oh yeah, we're gonna glorify the victims real quick and give a little backstory, but we're not gonna talk to their families.
I know, and it's oh yes, we did this to educate people. I'm no, you kind of desensitized us, I feel like.
Yeah, no.
And there was just so many things they got wrong. For example, one of the neighbors, her name was Glenda Cleveland, but she wasn't actually a neighbor. She never really met Jeffrey Dahmer. She was kind of based on an actual neighbor of his, Pamela Bass. Mm-hmm. They just completely switched, different people, made them different people, made their own characters. It's if you're gonna do something with true crime, do it right.
Right. They just didn't create any sort of accuracy. You know what I mean? They kind of just they literally just made a TV show.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I know that serial killers are really popular and true crime is really popular in mainstream, and they totally just took that and just ran with it.
I
just
agree.
A cash grab kind of thing.
And just to dive in on our second case, have you heard of the Cleveland, Ohio kidnappings?
Very briefly.
Okay. So for our viewers that don't know, between 2002 and 2004, Ariel Castro kidnapped three women, Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, and Gina DeJesus, I believe. And they were captive over 10 years. And there were so much things that went on in the house. Obviously these women were assaulted. Amanda Berry actually carried Ariel Castro's child, and she was forced to have it. She was forced to conceive the child. These women were beaten, starved, and manipulated and put against each other by Ariel Castro. And there's actually a movie made in 2013 that was co-written and directed by one of the victims, Michelle Knight. But there was so many plot points that just didn't make sense in the movie. I wouldn't say that there was much glorification in the Cleveland abduction movie. However, it has been reported that these women did not really get along because of the manipulation that Castro put over them. I know that Amanda Berry and Gina get along. However, they kind of got mad because Michelle painted herself in this movie as the person who held them all together. And that could very well be true, but they all kind of were survivors on their own. It's not all just about one person. And I feel I know you haven't. Have you not seen the movie either? No?
I don't think I've seen that one, though.
The movie also kind of failed to put in Castro's psyche. Now, it's not all about Castro. It's a movie about the victims. But I just feel like the budget was low as well. The writing was horrible. And if you're going to do a movie about these horrible stories, make it high budget. Make these people feel seen. Educate people.
I feel like Hollywood, it would be better if they approached true crime in the context of documentaries rather than movies and TV shows. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Because it makes it
Thank
like
you.
sort of like a fiction kind of story, and it kind of separates the situation that actually happened into like putting it into like a script and like cinema production. You know what I mean? Rather than like
agree.
an actual like record of what happened.
And also, from what I heard, that the other girls did not give their consent for this movie to be made. So I'm like, make it make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get you.
But that is all for Misconceptions in Hollywood, and I hope to see you guys around again. Thank you, Kate, for helping me host, and it is appreciated.